Morning, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I want to thank Civic Exchange for inviting TCC to participate in a very, very important session and mission. I also applaud the efforts of Civic Exchange to seek advice from California. A wise man in the United States said, "What California thinks on Monday, rest of the country thinks on Wednesday." And probably Australia on Thursday, and EU maybe on Friday. So you went to a right place to seek advice, as it is documented, and you'll experience the changes very soon on that. I revive my days when I used to live here in '74. The air was cleaner, everybody spoke English, and Kaitak was small and gave you a chance to see what anybody is eating in their kitchen when you came into land. All that has changed. The airport is massive, and you ride through from airport to city. Partially, you feel you are passing through a refinery. Actually, it's not a refinery. It's a massive container terminal that's causing it all. But to get something, you ought to give something. At the doorstep, Hong Kong is enjoying prosperity like never before. But they're also made to live with pollution. It came with the industry, and there has to be a solution to that. I'm glad that Civic Exchange is now handling that problem head on and not blaming others, but finding a solution and getting the right people on board to discuss the anomalies which can be corrected. My presentation is very profound. It is from the heart. I make this as a citizen of the world and, of course, as a seafarer operating a very efficient and a proud fleet, mixed fleet of tankers and bulk carriers. Many speakers before me have very eloquently made their case, but we live in a make-believe world. You heard about bunker specifications. This is my 56th year in the industry and 38 years in the US. I'm yet to see a bunker supplier who will supply bunkers with quality or quantity that they promise. Quality you never get, and quantity is always disputed. Check it with any part of the world. Singapore especially is getting hard on that. They supply what they now call cappuccino bunkers. You can have 5 to 10% discrepancy, and in the end, the state has to intervene. Why? So for all the ills and wills of the industry and the people, ship must have a solution and pay for it. And that solution be practical. I mentioned yesterday that today we live in a world of duopoly. Those in whose care lies the secret and correcting the defaults, they are too busy with themselves doing something else. By that I mean there are only 2 engine manufacturers left. There used to be 10. There was competition. With these 2, they have joined hands, and following a research of their interests, their choice, it has no end in sight. They had already busted 77 million euros of EU funds in Hercules 1. And seeing the futility of that in erecting some monster scrubbers with no solution, they now switch to Hercules 2. And they're now tinkering with the very process of combustion, delaying ignition, retarding ignition, advancing ignition, introducing steam, water. There's no end in sight. And there's not a solution to NOx. The industry got wary of it and taking sulfur out of the fuel. You cannot credit an engine maker for that. It is the industry's initiative and the people. I would even credit the EPA in the United States for it. Be that as it may, my presentation is brief, but like I said, it'll set you to think there are solutions available. This page, which is before you, is in fine print, and I will leave that to you to know more about TCC and the dynamic head of the owning company, third generation Koo family, who has pledged his own funds when the engine makers chose not to support. I am very happy to report to you 5 years of intense research in the University of Southern California in Los Angeles. The research started on 17th of May 2010, and as we speak, the research part is over. We are now heading to implementation stage. Tests have been carried out already on one ship. They were very successful. Initially, we had to prove that the modifications will survive the enormous pressures, vibrations, and temperatures in the combustion chamber. I will speak more on that as we proceed. Making the case, I would like to mention the planet is in peril. There are people who still don't believe that is true. But believe me, it is happening at a pace we may never be able to correct. But how did we get here? There are many reasons, but I would just concentrate on there have been sustainability defaults. They are around us and they surround us, and they're going unnoticed. Call it politics or whatever, but choice of right technology is not being made, in whose care there is the know-how and the funds available. Industrial growth and insatiable thirst for energy, as you see in Hong Kong and the neighboring areas. There was some reckless industrial growth that increased demands on energy, and atmosphere, environment was neglected. We are coming together now. I would like to concentrate more on the role of the fossil fuels and who is responsible for it. In the merchant ships, or ships anywhere for that matter, primarily powered by slow-speed two-stroke marine diesel engines, very, very low grade of fuel and inefficient process of combustion continues to be used. You will laugh if I tell you that the combustion process has not changed or improved since 1892, when Rudolf Diesel invented the engines. Not much. If you look at the fuel efficiency and the emission abatement, GCC launched the research project with USC, with some of the world's best scientists there, to do what? To examine the traditional fundamentals of combustion. How does combustion take place in a diesel engine? That was revisited, and as I said, there are some of the top scientists in the university. When the engine makers showed no interest, Mr. Koo, Kenneth Koo, third generation, he decided to embrace the academics, the brains. And these are real brains because they are assisting the Department of Defense in the US for alternate fuels. You name it, they have it. They're responsible for GPA and things like that. So that's where the talent is. What was examined was the traditional compression ignition. We are all used to that. A given mass of air is compressed, and in that process, tremendous heat is generated as it is compressed 22 times. and the pressures and the temperatures are reached when the piston reaches its top dead center. 10 degrees before it gets there, fuel is injected, which explodes, pushes the piston down. What have you achieved? You have achieved transformation of chemical energy into mechanical energy. Now that process is highly inefficient. If I show you the next chart, it shows you the energy inefficiency of engines. And somehow we are content with that. Look, steam engines were known to be just 20% efficient. The automobile came after that, 25%. The marine diesel engine, 40 to 45%, depending on who you ask. All that must change. The compression ignition is no longer useful, and the engines must be made more efficient. How do you do that? So with a lot of research for the last 5 years, successful trials were made in one-cylinder Kubota engines, three-cylinder Detroit diesel engines, and we have figures to prove this can change. This is just a brief glimpse at what we use in ships. You can see the distinct quality of the distillate fuels and residual fuels. If you look at the bottommost remark, it is truly the waste from refining process. If not used in the diesel engines, this probably will be used to make tar roads. That's how bad it is. You don't even want to go into the details of the specifics so defined by ISO standards. But that's not doing it. So the research, and these are some more specifics of the standards of fuel. A glance at also CO2 emissions by its source. This is put together by IMO, and as you can see, land-based industry contributes about 89% of emission. Ocean-going ships, only 3.5%, and aviation contributes the remaining 4%. So what are the objectives? Efficiently convert chemical energy to mechanical energy, and how can that be achieved economically and with efficiency? A new technology called the plasma ignition has been introduced very successfully and has been deployed in the lab environment. We learn from nature. As you know, the intergalactic space is filled with plasma. Scientists even call this the fourth matter. And we all are used to some lightning, thunder, as a result of variations in electrical charges. Same principle is used by creating a plasma electrode inserted in the combustion chamber and fed with predetermined current. And that, as we see in the environment, produces explosion detonation. What this does is, when we say the diesel engine has 45% efficiency, it means 55% hydrocarbon is not used. Where does it go? It goes in air unused, stays as soot or particulate matters. So in other words, what happens to that 55% hydrocarbon? We must put that to use. And that's precisely what the plasma electrode will achieve and has achieved in the lab environment, and also on one trial so far conducted on ship. By doing this, what do you expect to do? There are some pictorial representations of the actual ignition due to transient plasma and one with spark ignition. You can see in the bottom part the enlarged release of energy as a result of plasma ignition. Plasma does not depend on heat. When the piston has done its job inside the combustion chamber, as we call ignition due to heat, and then downward, in the downward travel of the piston, when the plasma injection will set afire the 55% of unburned hydrocarbon, that is additional power. You have to restrict the power generated in a cylinder so it will not fracture the parameters set on the cylinder liners or the cylinder head. That is achieved by controlling the injection of fuel inside the combustion chamber. To give you an example, TCC owns and operates a VLCC, a very large crude carrier, 306,000 tons, which produces 34,000 horsepower, burning 90 tons a day. With plasma injection, you can produce same power, 34,000 horsepower, not with 90 tons, probably with only 40 tons. That's fuel efficiency for you. But that's only half the battle. Now we look at the remediation of emissions. The only solution is plasma remediation for the exhaust and the emission control. How that is done? That is done with a new technology called the nanosecond pulse power. It's a very powerful new technology, and it will break down the NOx into its elements of nitrogen, which is in air, O2 and O, the very thing which formed it to start with. And hence the most popular expression coined here, it will reduce, reverse, and recover emissions. It has been proved, and TCC will continue this research. Hopefully somebody will be attracted in this game-changing technology and make it faster for the betterment of the people. So as I said, you don't need to erect 15 meters tall, 5 meters diameter scrubbers. No, sir, that doesn't do anything. It doesn't promise you. But besides, where is the space on ships? There is no space on ship. Alternative to change over to gas is very exotic and exciting, but that doesn't solve. You cannot change or convert 40,000 ships in the world serving the oceans with the gas technology. It's okay on a small scale, like Thailand has achieved now total switch to LNG. But on a large scale, it's not possible. So the only way you can do is to neutralize the NOx by reducing, reversing the very chemical reaction which formed it. And it can be done, it has been proved. As I see here, in one experiment conducted, the NOx was reduced by 96%. And this is truth which happened in California. I'd be very willing to share this technology. I can't give you far too many details. They are privileged at this stage. Someday, one day, it will become public, and I hope we'll all benefit from it. A brief write-up on what TCC fleet is about, and we have plans to install this in our new building ship program, at least the NOx part of it, which seems to be ahead of the combustion part. That's all I have to say to set your imagination on fire. And anybody who is willing to know more or wanting to know how they can contribute to this, feel free to contact anytime. Thank you very much.